Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Stencil Saturday video. This week, as you can see, I have marked a border, and I used my dot and dash border stencil. So with this design, I just wanted to show you, the stencil itself marks out it's 8 inches tall, and I sewed out a 6-inch border here. Just so you can see, it doesn't necessarily, it will work, even if your border obviously is not as big as this stencil is. And so what I did was, here's the stencil. So you'll notice that this whole, let me pull this over here. This center section, I just slid this down until this bottom line of the stencil was beyond it. I lined up the top with the top of the border. You could also do it the other direction. Like I could have lined it up the bottom line on the bottom of the actual border and then see what I had to work with, which would have been about right there. I would have had these lines. So I decided to do it the opposite way, and I slid it down this way. So this is now not on my marking. You can see that. I want to do something kind of just pretty simple, but I think it's pretty. And another thing I wanted, so what we're going to do, I'm going to stitch, and you might notice right here, I just grabbed my chalk pencil and put a little tick mark there and over on this one because I don't want to forget what I'm stitching to. And I'm going to stitch just a nice big curve from here up to the center point because I want to make this nice big just arch, and then I'm going to echo it and put some feathers in here, and then I'm just going to come out on the outside and up to the arch that I stitch. I'm just going to do some straight line. Okay. But one thing I do want to mention is, not always, I'm going to go from this point right here, and I'm going to let my lines come down the whole way down to the bottom of the border in between the repeats, because you have to envision that this would be in repeat along a border. But the nice thing is, if you measure your border and, kind of divide it by the width of this stencil, and you realize, yeah, that's not going to work because, you would need like some oddball number and it won't be. You can, as you mark them, let's just say you mark this, but you can, like I measured, so from this point to the other point that I marked is only 8 inches. So if I'm sorry, it's 12 inches. If I knew that 12 or 8, what doesn't matter what it is, you can just overlap the stencil to make them meet there. I hope that makes sense. Instead of having to use the edge of this, straightforward and do it as wide as it is, because it's not always going to work out that way. The other option would be that maybe you do something like this where I'm starting in from the edge, and then you have open space between your repeats to add something altogether different. So let's go ahead and get started. And like I said, I'm going to stitch from this point up to this point right here, and then back down on the other side. And I'm using a curved ruler from the Quilted Pineapple. I like these. And I just grab out all my curves and kind of hold them there until one is the kind of look of the curve I think I want. So I'm just going to start right there, and I'm going to line this up because I want to hit this point way up here. Not that it's that far away, but so line up so I hit that point ideally, and I'm just going to stitch. Not bad. And then I'm going to come down this side again, going to this little point that I marked down there. now I want to echo that. So I'm just going to, how wide do I want that to be? Probably 1/2 inch would be nice. So I'm just going to line the ruler up a little bit, 1 stitch too far. So I have the first line lined up there, and then I'm going to line up that same one on the top. And then I'm going to stitch along here, and hopefully, I am not the greatest with big rulers. It really is not my thing. I usually like a little bit smaller ones, but you know, I've used what's going to work for what I need. All of this hand shuffling. I'm just going to stitch until I get up to that center point, and ideally when I move the ruler over here we should be, oh, that wasn't the most even, but no, I'm off. So I'm just gonna have to kind of adjust that a little bit. I'm going to shift it a little bit as I go. And there we go. We have our kind of stitched arch. I think it's not as much of an arch as I really wanted, but it'll work. It's okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the center part next, and I just want to put some flowy, feathery things. So I'm going to just mark a, and it can be however you want in the center. I know a lot of people like to start and have like a center thing and have your feathers coming off. Maybe I'm lazy, but I personally just prefer a totally random marked curvy spine, because then I don't have to do any math. So I'm just going to mark like a totally random wavy thing and fill in out to the edges of this, and then of course the bottom of the border. So I'm just going to backtrack over here. And I'm not actually even going to stitch the spine, because ideally I can stitch it as I do my feathers, which you can do any way you like. My preference is to do both sides as I go so that I don't have to do two. The other option would be to stitch the feathers along one side up to this chalked spine. Then when you get all the way to the other side, stitch the spine back and then do your second side. So that is entirely up to you, whichever way you like to do it. So I'm just going to stitch these. See right here, I can kind of stitch that part of the spine. And if I'm not right on it, just change it a little, that's all. I like these kind of totally random spines, because it really makes the feathers have a lot more movement, I think. Get all different shapes and sizes, and I really kind of like that. Almost to these last few little ones to fill up the whole space. And that's all of the center fill. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, with a border, if, you know, I would have this marked in repetition. So I would really just scoot out of here and do the feathers in all of them. And then I would go back just like I'm going to now and do all of the lines along from the top to match, to go down to this arc. And you can do it any way you like. I mean, you can do it all at once. That's entirely up to you. You know what? I'm going to start up at the top up here. You can see a little bit better if I can get my bobbin thread. There we go. And I think I'm going to do 1/2-inch lines. So it's not so, I don't always want it to be so tight. So now I'm just going to stitch these. And if you would have rather had your arches touching, I mean, you know, there's a unlimited number of options. So I'm just gonna, and then as I come up to this arch, I am going to have to travel along it, and you can grab that curve again if you need to do it. I like to try to think anyway that I can backtrack. Half the time it bites me in the butt because I don't, but you can also use your straight roller to go around a curve. You just kind of have to go slow. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of these lines. Okay, those are the lines. Let me get this out of the way, and we can take a look at this. And I hope we can see it. Maybe if I turn off this light, no, that's not much better, but so we can see. I mean, I think this is a really pretty option. It's, you know, you can change it up a lot of different ways depending by what you fill in here. You know, to me, this is a more traditional. This would be a beautiful little, you know, not too intense, mid-level custom border. Or you could change this up, you know, in a lot of different ways if you're maybe a more modern quilter. Maybe you want to come in here and do something geometric. And then, you know, you have the options out here. Maybe you don't want to leave these lines just as lines. Maybe you want them to be a grid. You certainly could come back and stitch this way if you wanted to turn that into a crosshatch. Or grid, I guess, not. Or maybe you want to fill in every other line with something. That's entirely up to you. So let me go ahead and get rid of these chalk markings, and we'll take a look at it without the lines. Okay, I got the lines taken off, and it's really hard to do these borders because it's hard to see the whole thing. But there it is, and I think we can actually see it better with the light off. I think it's pretty. Turn the light back on. And there we go. So I hope you guys like that, and I will see you again next time. Bye.